Ew! Smells like it's time for another Shy Life podcast.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Good luck, studio.
Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Oh, there's going to be some drama ahead.
All I wanted was a pie, and then I hatched out of an egg.
Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
Hello.
It's the quiet ones you've got to watch, you know.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep? Is it deep?
Boy, he's not all that shy is right.
Blimey, Governor. It's the Shy Life podcast.
Hello, Paul.
Excellent.
636. Bonjour et bienvenue au podcast The Shy Life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shy Life podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How are you doing? I'm alright. So, what's this episode going to be about? Well, I've got Nick here for a start. Hello. We're going to be terribly random this time. We've been random.
We aren't usually.
We've been random many times before. We're going to be slightly random in a different way this time, and some of it may not work, but
We'll give it a whirl anyway.
We'll give it a whirl. Yes, let's run that theme music. When we come back, we'll explain a bit more and be ever so random. Okay, run that theme music.
Darling, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Yeah, but it's a positive thing, Paul. The High Life, the Shy Life.
You won't find a cast of characters like this everywhere.
I'll go anywhere for the taste of it.
Delicious.
Hello, campers. How are you? You quite like a Big Bang, don't you?
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. Do you think he has?
I love the Yeti'S. It's my favorite thing.
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Yeah, I am strangely drawn to Yeti Uncle John's ankles as well.
I could eat my body weight in crisps every day.
Has anyone seen my hot sausage?
It's all gooey and easy. Yum, 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 yum.
Oh, I can't wait for it to begin.
It's the Shy Life podcast.
I'd like that, yeah.
Marvellous, Paul.
Hi there. Okay, we are recording.
So we've done random episodes before, random word episodes before, but I was looking at a sort of site which can generate random words, which we have used, but it also had random sentences or random phrases, and maybe we'll have some opinion. So I think rather than doing lots and lots of random words, we'll start with a random word, we'll see some of the options it's giving us, and we'll do a random word to stop. But perhaps we'll choose 3 and we can pick one of them. 3 words we've got are lake, hospitality, or presidential.
Ooh. Lake, hospitality, or presidential.
Well, I could talk about, you can talk about the same word, but when I think about lakes, I've got quite a lot I could say about lakes. Either it be the lovely lakes that were in Sutton Park. It's one of the good things about when I moved to Sutton Coldfield to have Sutton Park on my door, because it was a big enough area that there were woods and proper woods that you could get lost in, and loads of paths and loads of heathland, and about 4 or 5 lakes, maybe even 6, but the different size ones, and it really did feel. Well, it didn't feel like you were in very close to Birmingham. It felt like you were in the countryside. Because you can have sort of like a park, like a park with swings, but this was really a proper country park, a really nice area for filming. I couldn't have wanted for anything better, really. And then also my many visits to the Lake District from about 1990 onwards. We did Sutton Park in in the Lake District in the late 90s, but I've been many times since with different friends, and at least one of the episodes of the podcast has been done in the Lake District, particularly Keswick, which is also an area that Muffley on Tour regularly goes with his wife. I was like jumping on the boat that goes round Derwentwater and being able to jump off at different piers, and then either walking on a bit. I can't really do any of these long walks at the moment, but it's one of my favourite places, Keswick and Derwentwater, and the lake there. So that's my two Pennethworths.
I think I would have to go to hospitality, because it's a subject fairly close to my heart. I like parties. I like doing parties, but I suppose hospitality, I always like, whenever anyone's staying with me, I always like them to have as much food and drink as they possibly can, and keep them entertained. I think with parties, though, I always strive to get the right balance, because I think, I tend to put my 18th birthday on a pedestal and think, well, it wasn't quite as if it was more parent-based and wasn't quite as sophisticated as the later ones. What made it so good? But I think it was because I didn't have to play host all the time. I think, the parents kind of brought in the food, and they were entertaining in one room whilst I was entertaining in another, half the time I find myself racing around and filling up people's drinks, filling up people's food, making sure they're eating all right, talking to them, and filming. Sometimes I sort of overstretch myself, but part of it is nervous energy, part of it's wanting to preserve the moment, which I have done many occasions. And I'm kind of, with the last thing I did, which was at the pub, my own birthday a few weeks ago, I kind of took the hospitality, the host thing out of it by taking everybody to the pub and going from table to table and religiously sort of keeping it going, so I'm able to give as much time to people as possible. And I consider it hospitality work in progress. I still haven't figured out a way of, because I've stretched myself too much, and Ali can't do as much these days either. And what we were doing 20 years ago, she can't particularly do now. So I think that one of the classic party eras, really for us, was the early to mid noughties, where we were having quite a few do knees ups at our place in St Martin's Church Street. So there's been a few nice do's that we've had since then, but I don't think, because we haven't had as much room to play with, and families diminished over the years, we haven't had kind of recreated that quite so effectively since. But I persevere. I like being a host as much as I can.
We're going to try a random sentence generator next. I think this is more. We don't have to take it too far, but I've generated 3 sentences, and I'd be interested to know which one would inspire you to, perhaps, if you were writing a story and you had to, you think, that topic, that I could see that would be quite interesting to develop. So I'm really interested to know which of these intrigues you most, or makes you, or piques your interest. We don't have to go beyond that, or if you have an idea, then maybe. Yeah. But let's see what comes up. So I've got 3. We've got the mysterious diary records the voice. Then we've got he was an introvert that extroverts seemed to love, and then the third one is his confidence would have been admirable if it wasn't for his stupidity. Do you want to go first, or should I?
What about the diary again? Sorry.
The mysterious diary records the voice.
Records the voice. That sort of holds my attention, because a mysterious diary, which would indicate a sound diary. So maybe this person keeps a diary, or perhaps even for work purposes, and there's a mysterious voice on there which, like in a security building, maybe that is almost like the devil in your ear, maybe kind of blackmailing himself as an aspect of himself, where when he plays it back, he's sort of thinking, "Who's that? That's me," but I didn't say that.
It almost sounds like
someone an aspect of yourself putting yourself, or maybe some sinister character in the room that kind of every time you leave the tape, kind of almost like the elves and the shoemaker, you leave it and he comes back to it and without looking.
It almost sounds like a badly translated sentence. The mysterious diary records. It sounds like
it's almost like a foreign,
like on a poster for a movie, in a foreign movie that's been kind of hasn't quite been translated quite properly.
So I think I'd run with that one. If it wasn't for his stupidity,
I always think that the second and third one could almost be he was an introvert that extroverts seemed to love. His confidence would have been admirable if it wasn't for his stupidity.
Exactly, yeah.
That's almost the
same thing. You could roll that into one.
Or you can roll that into one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly intrigued by the diary. I mean, it could be that the diary belongs to this man who is very confident and yet stupid.
And there's a mysterious voice telling him how stupid he is on there's a sort of voice
it could be like
self-awareness.
Yeah, it could be, or it could be like Dorian Gray. Your stupidity is there's a diary with your stupidity
in it. Yes.
All the stupid things you do, and yet you get out. Your outer appearance is
a picture of
like a perfect life, but you're done.
Yeah, so all the good sense that would have been yours. It's like Dorian and Gray in reverse, where the picture's getting the best bits. Yes,
I think that was fun. We should try and do another.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how that would work, but
it's totally experiment. Yeah.
Right, we've got 3 again. She only paints with bold colours. She does not like pastels. Then we have please wait outside of the house. Then we've got it's much more difficult to play tennis with a bowling ball than it is to bowl with a tennis ball.
Well, I discount that last one. It was the sport, I suppose, which is. I suppose again I'm drawn to the first one. A, because it's she, and B, with bold colours and pastels. It suggests a woman who lives life to the full, and and it's an allegory for that. Please wait outside the house. If you roll that into the next one, you could maybe this woman's had an affair or bought something absolutely extravagant, and she and her partner are having a row, and the friends that are there are having unveiled this thing. No, even better. The woman's, if you take it literally that she's painting in bold, the woman's painted something a little racy, and they're junior members of the family. Please wait outside the house. We'll bring you in, and after this sort of naughty picture's been.
I can imagine the last one about the tennis ball being something that either she says, or maybe she's got a wise old mother, or like a housemate, like a housekeeper who says these like sort of are they very wise words, or are they just sort of words that sound wise?
Or maybe she's a bit the loop and is actually painting bowling balls, and putting silly faces on them and messing up her. Where she's the prodigal daughter who is kind of is at home from her travels, and as kind of is a painter, and she's quite outrageous that there's sort of please wait outside the house. Maybe some posh guests are coming along, and that she's being rather embarrassing and bowling with the wrong things as well. Sort of like
So let's try one more. We might even come back to this at the end if it's been successful. But they're short. They're interesting. Weird sentences. She advised him to come back at once, is one sentence. And then combine harvesters are no longer just for farms. And even weirder, iguanas were falling out of the trees. I mean, she could be. She might have advised him to come back at once because the iguanas were falling out of the trees for a start.
And the iguanas are driving the combine harvesters all over the place, not just for farms. She can't cope with it anymore because the farm's taken a sort of animal farm turn where the animals are starting to take over.
Well, they've started having animals that aren't usually known for farms, like iguanas.
No, that's true. But maybe it's a particularly exotic sort of reservation, and she's they're sort of like an animal farm nightmarish kind of scenario where she wants him back, whoever he is. But we're kind of almost working backwards from it.
I think we might come back to this one at the end, but a slight variation on this is random phrase generator. Yeah. I think these might be established phrases. I don't know. We can just comment on whether we like them, dislike them, think they're stupid, think that we'll see what we get. But, we've got three very famous phrases. I guess we can say whatever we want to say about them. The first one is fish out of water. The second one is you can't judge a book by its cover, and the third one is curiosity killed the cat.
I think they're all very established. Fish out of water, I mean, I was to say, can apply to me with sort of social scene before, having just left school. My mum's work dues, which used to take along, and there'd always be someone I had a crush on, but never got round to. Because I was Pam's son, and I didn't really didn't want to cause her embarrassment, and I was probably far too young for the person involved. Never judge a book by the cover. Inevitably, people do. I think you can take that. Gets judged by the cover. You
can take that literally and figuratively. You often can't judge an actual book by its cover.
No.
And you can't necessarily judge a person or a thing or whatever.
Unfortunately, people do. They shouldn't, but they still do. Which is, and it's only really when you get to know them that it's. I
think curiosity killed the cat is a bit of a negative one, because that kind of suggests you shouldn't ever be curious or stick your nose into things. Imagine how many political scandals or things where corruption is, and if nobody had stuck their nose in, then those things would never have been exposed.
And also, what is this thing that's killed the poor Moggy?
Yeah,
I think it's a bit harsh.
I don't know any cats who've been killed by
curiosity. But they are a curious species.
Might have been run over by a car, but that wasn't curiosity. That was bad driving or bad running.
That's a sort of cautionary phrase that A is a little bit too harsh, and B, as you say, is not entirely healthy, because I'm
trying to think. When I've been a fish out of water, I think that might almost link back to when I was telling that story last time about being in a room where people were passing a joint around and not feeling comfortable about trying it. So just sort of coming up with an excuse and actually not feeling as much fish out of water because I was honest to myself. And
also, sort of my religious beliefs, have kind of, I suppose, aroused some curiosity from people. I know, going back, well, we've just done an episode with the 1990 diary. I was working with a guy at the studio at the time called John Sweeney, who was quite an edgy kind of guy and very pushing the envelope and liking to shock the then very conservative committee which decided on plays. And we would often go to the pub, and it was almost intimidatingly interested in my kind of faith. And I'm not a theologian, I didn't have all the answers, but it was kind of interesting and intimidating at the same time that he was kind of quite probing about that. But that's kind of been interesting.
Also, I think fish out of water is doesn't actually say that that's a good or a bad thing. In fact, it probably, the definition is someone being in a situation that they are unfamiliar or unsuited for. I mean, that's not necessarily doesn't mean to say that once you're put in a situation that you're unfamiliar and unsuited are quite different. Yeah. You might be unfamiliar with doing something, but when you do it, you're actually brilliant. You click. Whereas the other option, unsuited, would suggest that you're not going to be, for whatever reason, suited.
Also, fish out of water would imply the poor thing suffocates. So
which would suggest that it's a negative thing, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Doing something different than you usually do could actually be the making of you. So, it's a bit of a stupid one.
Yeah.
Let's. I quite like this. Let's see about how we can. It's okay. I usually say we shouldn't be negative, but we can be negative. I don't. Usually, when I say that, I mean, I don't want to talk for ages about things we hate, like films or books or music.
But I can go on for hours.
To a certain amount of it, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine in this case to pick at stupid phrases that don't mean anything. Because the thing is, I get it from my dad, where like for instance. Trying to say to him, okay, you think people look untidy because they don't wear a tie. Why do you think that? Or because they're untidy. No, but why do you think that? Because you're indoctrinated to believe that a tie somehow makes you smarter. There's no actual reason for wearing a tie, but because some people are so. It's always been drummed into them that this is what makes this. They can't explain why they think that now. They just they know that that's what they were brought up with. Is institutional sort of silliness. You're wearing a bit of cloth around your neck, which constricts your breathing possibly, or makes you feel uncomfortable.
I only work if I have to go to a very posh do, or if I'm at a funeral. It's the only times I wear a tie now.
Okay, the first one I'm not so familiar with. We've got Jaws of Life, which means. Usually this references a tool used by rescuers when they pry or cut open a car to save the occupant. I don't think that's very good.
I think I'm presuming it's an inversion of the Jaws of Death.
Yeah.
Jaws of Life.
Really heard people
I've not heard that before. Well, it's a positive version of Jaws of Death. But the Jaws of Death makes a bit more sense because if you're sort of being eaten by an animal or something, that's the Jaws. But if it's Jaws of Life, then that would still imply an animal. So it's a bit weird. That.
Yeah. The next one is Jack of all trades, master of none. I mean, there was certainly. I don't know if that quite fits, but there are certainly people out there in the media who are known for one thing, but then think they're capable of talking about almost any subject.
It's also that sort of. It's got a rather negative ending because. Jack of all trades is maybe they're not a master of none, but they're still very useful little thingies. I mean, I know lots of little bits and pieces in my job, and I wouldn't say I was a master of any of it. But
and also, certain subjects, you keep getting new facts. It's like being a fan of Doctor Who 30 years ago. Now it's a lot harder because you've got because suddenly you've got loads more new episodes and loads more new things to remember. So I often when people say, "Oh, you're really good at pub quizzes," or "You're really good at this or that," I think, well, I know I would have been 30 years ago. Yes, I did know what was on TV. Now I don't know what's on TV.
I wouldn't have a clue.
You can stop being an expert if you were ever an expert. What is an expert? But
so a bit tricky. Again, that's one of those phrases where you think, it's unnecessarily negative.
The last one, well, it's happy as a clam. The state of being happy, feeling delighted. I think my reaction would be more. If I could draw, I quite like the visual image of happy as a clam with the smiling face, but I don't know that it has. I guess it's the wide mouth.
How many clams are interviewed for this?
They're not really depressed. They probably are. If they've opened up, they're probably opening themselves up to trouble as well.
Is it because they've got a valuable pearl inside them, or it's a weird one. That happy as a clown, I can imagine, but happy as a clam. also, you know, if you're on, clams can be eaten, can't they?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not exactly a good day if you're being eaten.
Yeah, I don't know what to quite do with that. There's not that much depth to that one.
No.
It's kind of more of a visual image than it is a comment or a subtle sort of, comment. I don't know what this one's going to be like. Random paragraph generator. Goodness. Okay, I'll just do one at a time because it is a paragraph. This is, just give your reaction to this. Does it give you an idea for a story? Do you disagree? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Anything you want to do. So the paragraph is as follows. Balloons are pretty and come in different colours, different shapes, different sizes. They can even adjust sizes as needed. But don't make them too big or they might just pop and then bye-bye balloon. It'll be gone and lost for the rest of mankind. They can serve a variety of purposes, from decorating to water balloon wars. You just have to use your head to think a little bit about what to do with them.
It sounds like an episode of Rainbow until you get to the word mankind.
Yes, it's a bit dramatic.
That from there in on it becomes philosophical and wrongs for you. So I don't know where I put it actually. The beginning is like a children's book, and the end is sort of wanders into philosophy. So there's not a lot you can do with that.
And some of it slightly sounds. I don't know quite how this works as it literally is, because it makes enough sense that it sort of makes sense, but there are bits that saying that you can adjust the size of it doesn't. That's not quite how you'd. Again, that sounds a bit like badly translated.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Yeah.
But it reminds me of balloons. Balloons as a subject reminds me of the balloon monsters that were early monsters on Sutton Park, who I thought were bad, but they were really actually helpful. They were aliens, and they were basically some balloons I bought from a joke shop or a party shop, which had a face on them and were quite long and wiggly and could be put into camera shot without you seeing that you were holding them.
I just remember going back to my 18th. I remember them being a great, rather straightforward sort of icebreaker, because in the modern day friends, there was two kind of. There was the old Beaches lot, and there was the people that I had in my life at the time. All of which I loved equally, and didn't really spend enough time with the one and spent too much time with the other. But the balloons, actually, there was one guy from Bishops and us two people, one for Amesbury Stonehenge School and one from me, and it kind of broke barriers down because we're all being silly with balloons. The other thing with balloons is my 50th at work. They gave me a big helium balloon, and I kept it in the office until I was 30, until I was 51. And I sort of put a great big one down across the zero, and that lasted.
Did you have balloons at your 21st? Because I remember Danny and I kicking something around the hall, but that was balloons.
Yes, I got a feeling we did have balloons at my 21st, because that was at the Ayers Church, the Ayers Road Church Hall, where later did One More Bow, and I later had my wedding reception. What was the other? But they can be a bloody nuisance, especially when they go pop. But they are quite fun. They're all right. Yeah.
Let's try another sentence. They had always called it the Green River. It made sense. The river was green. The river likely had a different official name, but to everyone in town it was, and had always been, the Green River. So it was with great surprise that on this day the Green River was a fluorescent pink. Well, that's definitely an idea for a story there. That's quite an inspiring one.
Possibly ecological.
Yeah.
Possibly somebody's been taking drugs.
Sounds like an episode of Doomwatch, potentially.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, Cherry Aid. Someone put too much Cherry Aid in the lake, and it's all gone. It's all gone. I think definitely ecological.
I can see it as a pre-title sequence to an episode of like somebody running into the shop going, the river's changed. What do you mean? It's a strange colour. What do you mean? It's always green. No, look, come and have a look.
Yeah.
Coming out to the shop and seeing.
You've got a scenario that's sort of ecological or sort of downright weird. There's sort of extraordinary in the normal. Again, the language of it sets out with is very childish and sort of it's of course green too. That's because it was green. It's all kind of Jackanory, but yet the twist is suggests something a little bit more fantastical.
Yeah, it does sound like it would.
It reminds me a little bit of one of the episodes in the first series of Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin, where Reggie Perrin tries to sabotage his boss's fishing spree by discharging a lot of Loganberry juice into the river, which turns red, giving CJ a fright. But
I've got another one, which again could be a good beginning of a story. Samantha wanted to be famous. The problem was that she had never considered all the downsides to actually being famous. Had she taken the time to objectively consider these downsides, she would never have agreed to publicly sing that first song.
I mean, you could go practically anywhere with that. I mean, Strictly Come Dancing, perhaps. As I say, I mean, that could be a modern story for sure.
I mean, and also it could be what that first song was or it could be almost like the actual song is the cause of almost like a Pied Piper type thing. She sings a song that bewitches people and gets fame, or maybe she sells her soul to the devil, or sells her, or does something, or some sort of witchcraft spell that gets put on her, and she wants fame at no cost, at all cost.
Or maybe Simon Cowell, whoever is judging or something, insists that she sings another song which she hasn't prepared for. So poor old Samantha. That's the most likely one to pick up yet.
I read one more, but I think we might find again it's a good statement in itself and could lead to something, but beyond that, anyway, this again seems a bit nursery rhyme. Pink ponies and purple giraffes roamed the field. Cotton candy grew from the ground as a chocolate river meandered off to the side. What looked like stones in the pasture were actually rock candy. Everything in her dreams seemed to be perfect, except for the fact she had no mouth. That's a bit Saffron Steely. There's definitely a kind of either Saffron Steel or even there's the.
It's basically it has a touch of Roald Dahl about it. There's sort of like you've got. I mean, you think instantly of Wonka when you have the scenario.
It's sort of light and dark. It sort of sounds all sort of fairy tale, and yet the last paragraph is kind of that's quite dark.
I mean, it's almost as if she's someone who's eaten too much and they in the sort of same way that Wonka used to sort of dish out punishments. That was sort of taking a mouth away would be a kind of like a sort of like a weird kind of the fairy tale punishment. But then fairy tales are very dark as well, so no doubt that would be probably one. But no, interesting. That's quite a nasty sort of scenario.
This is a different one. This is a random dinner party. I'm just interested to know which of these three dishes. I've come to you with my menu. Which one of these would you like, sir? I can offer you tonight ginger shrimp and wild rice. I can offer you beef taco salad, or I can offer you barbecue honey pulled pork burger. Which of those would you like? I'll serve those with chips.
First one sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I like ginger, as long as it's not overdone. Ginger in sort of things like that.
I'm quite tempted by the. Of course, I'm also getting to see the picture, but the honey barbecue pulled pork burger.
Yes, that sounds nice. Anything to do with salad that kind of turns me off a bit.
I mean, I wouldn't. I think it's one of those things that's. It might be salad, but it's like what certain places say. Oh, here's a salad, and it's covered in mayonnaise and it's massive, and it's like not a very healthy salad. So I think it would be because it's sort of. It looks a bit like beef taco salad. Looks a bit like a chili con carne with some I guess it's. Although it's served in this enormous bowl, so I'm not sure how you're supposed to eat this, but there we go.
No, I definitely go for. I think I go with the first one, but the last one as an option.
Yes,
and
I could probably do a small portion of ginger shrimp and wild rice for a starter. And I'm going to get hungry doing this one, but I want to do another one now. Okay. So what would you like out of this? I've got bacon mac and cheese. I've got roasted beetroot and peach salad, and I've got mapu tofu, which I can't tell whether that's vegetarian.
Just idea what the last one is.
Yeah, I mean tofu is vegetarian, but I don't know whether the whole dish. I guess the whole dish would be. You wouldn't usually put a vegetarian option. I mean, there's quite a lot of veggies there. I mean, the roast beet and peach salad is more of a starter or something you could have on. I mean, it wouldn't really go with the bacon mac, but. I'd try it anyway. I'd probably want to combine some of those.
I think probably the first beetroot is the invention of the devil himself. I used to loathe it at school.
I used to loathe beetroot. It's one of the few things I don't like, but I've come around to it a bit more if it's done. Toby's managed to get me into beetroot to a point. Radish is another one I'm not that fond on.
No, I don't like radish.
And again, if he slices it thinly enough, or
there's a lot of clout for not much flavour with a radish. It blows your head off, and that doesn't give you anything in return.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to choose 5 options because we're a bit limited. Ooh. No, we 4 options because we've got the ginger shrimp again. You can't have that choice.
Yeah.
So I've got the option tonight of jalapeno and pepperoni pizza.
Jalapeno?
That's peppers, so it might be a bit. But I guess you could pick those off or ask them to be removed. Egg salad, roasted whole duck, or herb roasted pork loin, just served with seasonal vegetables.
Well, I don't think I've only ever had bits of duck on a takeaway, and that's the night I was editing Granny in Another Universe with the Cheney Brown Bills, and I was drunk as a skunk. So I know it's a bit fatty, but I'd go for the poor old duck. I think.
Do you like the duck? I mean, when I was at yours at the weekend, I had duck pancakes, and I like.
It's one of those things where I'm. It's there and I go for it, but I'm always distracted by something else.
I think because it's only sort of showing you the main meal. Pizza's to a penny. I like
wasn't too bad.
I like pizza, but
I like pizza with a bit of kick.
Yeah, I like pizza.
Not too much kick, but
I mean, egg salad. That's something you put in the sandwich. That's not really a main meal. I think I'd probably go for the herb roasted pork loin.
Yes,
if it was with like seasonal vegetables or new potatoes or something. That sounds nice. So I couldn't be so hungry. We'll do one more, and then we'll move on to a different one. Yeah, then we'll start eating bits of the table. Okay. Tonight I can offer you ham and cheese tortellini, swordfish with vegetables, bacon cheeseburger soup, spaghetti with tomato and shrimp, or parmesan chicken cutlets.
Parmesan chicken cutlets actually sounds. But
they look like they come with some.
Is an unknown quantity. I mean, it's an interesting creature, but I'd be.
Swordfish is a million miles away from like a tuna steak.
Yeah.
I like swordfish.
Wasn't too keen on the others. I think parmesan chicken cutlets. Can't go far wrong with chicken.
I could have all of those. I'd have the ham and cheese tortellini. I'll have a starter portion for that.
I'd probably want to play with the swordfish. Pose with it or something.
It's not really
extraordinary thing.
Bacon cheeseburger soup I would probably have as a possible starter because I love soups, and that's just something. I'm a sucker for anything that's kind of different to. Oh, it's a soup I haven't had, or it's an ice cream I've not had, or it's and I'd definitely be tempted. Spaghetti with tomato and shrimp. Again, maybe a starter portion.
That shrimp isn't having a very good day, is it?
The Parmesan chicken cutlets, they look a bit like they seem to come with quite a nice lot of veggies as well. It's definitely I'm definitely not negative on any of those. We might come back to this one at the end and try another one. Let's see what breakfast ideas. Could see. I know you're a bit.
Breakfast I'm a little bit more settled on, but it depends if I'm in holiday mode or not.
We'll try it once and see. So, sir, at our hotel, we've got a range of things you can have for your breakfast. We've got a crepe breakfast burrito. I don't know what's inside that. It's like a rolled pancake, but I don't know what's in it. You could have baked apple slices. You could have apple puff pastry. You can have potato fritters, or waffles and ice cream. Waffles and ice cream for breakfast. Well, I mean, I would eat any of them. I'd eat any of these things, but
I wouldn't have any of them for breakfast. I think crepe. Nothing against it all, but it's too rich and too desserty for breakfast.
I want to know what's inside the crepe breakfast burrito.
The pinchy winchy winch waffles, but again that
baked apple. You wouldn't have ice cream.
It's too early.
Surely.
It's too early for
baked apple slices. Is just a bit boring. Apple puff pastry. Crepes. I can't. I mean, I suppose that's not much difference to some of the sort of like a croissant or.
I'm not all that keen on croissants for breakfast.
Potato fritters. I want more. If I was going to have potato fritters, I'd want. Well, it depends what's in them. And there's likely bacon.
I like potatoes, but like you say, it wouldn't work unless it was surrounded by a full English breakfast or something.
Yeah. Okay, motivational quotes. Let's see if we're motivated or whether we think it's trite old rubbish. This is from, I don't know who this person is, Les Brown, The Power of Purpose. He says, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, what?
Be great.
It's kind of
simplistic.
It's kind of a bit simplistic.
A bit patronising, So someone likes the sound of their own voice, I think, too much on that one.
It sounds kind of wise, but it also kind of states the bleeding numbers.
I think it definitely sounds like a kind of advertising slogan that, I think rather than anything with particular relevance.
Yeah, I've tried another one and it's almost the same amount of triteness. So we'll move on to a different subject. Random question. Okay. What were you most afraid of when you were younger? Do you still have that fear? That could be your idols, but we've had that anecdote quite recently.
Well, your idols I've made peace with by now, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
The 100-foot weird things have left me alone ever since. What was I afraid of? I think most of the things that scared the bejesus out of me as a kid, I've since faced.
I used to be afraid of daddy long legs, which I'm not sure if they call them that. They're called something else, aren't they? They're not called mayflies. Crane flies. Crane flies, that's right. I was scared of them because they were like spiders. Yeah. I didn't like spiders. But these were like flying spiders.
But I will let them roam free. And unless they get in the way, and then I'll just put them outside.
You've got those grabby things.
Yes, I have. Yeah, my friend introduced me to it. We used to have a little box thing that inevitably caught their legs, poor things. But with this one, it's a fibre optic thing which picks them up wholesale, and you can put them outside. So if they get in the way or they're too big, I just pick them outside. But Ali's afraid of spiders. She'll say, "Oh my God, get rid of it!" And she runs for the hills. As for things that frightened me as a kid, there's still people I'm nervous around, but it's different types of things that you fear as a kid, I suppose. I think fire probably is a persistent one. I'm pretty pyrophobic. I'll double check everything before I go to bed, and fire I think probably the number one.
It's understandable. Is there anyone that you're wondering about, and if they're okay?
Constantly.
Yeah.
There's somebody I'm wondering about who I don't even know is alive. I got a friend who I was estranged with 11 years ago. I hope they're doing okay. I probably never see them again, but probably can never see them again. But there's one from my teens that I think is probably dead now. I was on Facebook with their brother. I never want to say these things, but I think I might have read. If it was something in the journal, the Salisbury Journal, about it. But also my godmother, who's 93, and in a home in Beaminster, and keep meaning to see her, but when thinking, well, she's really gone downhill and she's frail. And I've had a few experiences where I've gone to see people who are starting to fade away, and it's been upsetting. Mm-hmm. She was my mum's best friend. There's always people who think, I think also, I know that we both have friends that we haven't seen for years that sort of disappeared into the ether. And,
like our friend Lee, who's involved with our creativity. Although it's almost though as bad when you were close to people and they're still in view, but they're not. They're not what they were, or they're not what that you haven't got that closeness anymore. No, and it's exactly. And never knowing they're still out there is kind of bittersweet. Yes. Or ones that you've known for years, and yet they even after all this time they still won't let you into their life. They still won't come into your life, even though you've sort of embraced everything that they are. That's most definitely. What about if you had to pick a single word to describe this year so far? What would it be?
Game changing is 2 words, isn't it? But I suppose I don't know, because I feel that 2022 is sort of has been opening steps to coming out after COVID. For the first consistently throughout. So there's been some good stuff. I've seen friends who I haven't been able to see up until now. I've spent, and I've been doing some writing, and beyond that, though, the Queen's died. We've had this ludicrous war in Ukraine, and COVID is still with us and still killing people. So I would.
I think if you need more than one word, that's fair enough.
I think probably.
I think I've got 3. I'm going to have to say.
I think steady, but steady in some ways, but turbulent in others. It's not been a terrible year for me. It's probably been the best one so far in the 20s, because there's been a bit more normality, but there's a few world things that kind of have been a bit nasty.
I'd probably say trying health-wise, emotional, because my emotions seem to be all over the place this year, and productive, because despite the first 2, I've done more episodes of the podcast, and I've had the time to do them. Also, I don't think there's ever been a year with my creativity where there isn't, or something where I'm doing something that's, so when I was doing the poetry for about 15 years, that every year there'd be, that's new. This year I did this, which was different. It always felt I was moving along, or trying something different, or collaborating, or something, or it always felt, and with the podcast I've never felt this year's the same as last year. There's always people who come to the fore who weren't, like this year Warren has been involved a lot more. Muffley has come onto the show musically and as a guest. People like Kerry from the university. There's there's things that have been different.
Actually, I would say productive as well, because I intended last year to write 4 scripts, and 4 scripts were not forthcoming. I've written 3 out of those 4, and I'm fairly confident I can do script number 4 by the end of the year. Also, my book came out, the Song of the Dreamers, which I wrote in 2020, and Alan, who published it, has had heart problems throughout 2021, so it was quite heavily delay on that. And I finally finished the that I was doing for my wife, the TUC archive project. I finally got everything at the museum in Chippenham. So that's now done. So we were able to redesign. So yes, I would say productive as well, because we redesigned the sort of bedroom spaces, which look a lot better now. So there's been that. Obviously, working with you on the podcast, and some of the things we've rediscovered, like as we today, and yeah. So it's the more. The only thing that's been disappointing is I haven't had an opportunity to act or get any of my productions in good order, with Richard and that. There's been nothing with Richard and the CCP, which is the film production people that I've sort of worked with now and then. So that's been a little bit disappointing, but anyway, it's still to be young, so I'm hoping to do some acting in 2023, and hopefully some more writing.
I've seen a few other questions, but it's difficult. What I'm going to do is ask you to choose a number between. I'm going to get you to choose a number, and then I'm going to click the number you say, and then we'll read. Because I keep seeing ones I quite like that one, but I don't know about that one. Yeah. So yeah, choose a number between 1 and 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. Do you think you were ever part of the popular crowd?
No. No, I mean, insofar as Doctor Who is popular, I like Doctor Who.
But I think
it wasn't all that popular when you and I set out and to like it.
But I'm not really aware who the popular crowd were.
No.
So that's the thing. I don't think it was. I don't think I ever felt like that.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the on TV, the I mean, I think when you went to mixed school, or if you're in a school where people don't have to wear school uniforms, then it might be more clear cut. But there were the people who were good at sport, but I'd never associate. I never saw them. I don't know where they were where I compared to where I was. But
I've never fitted into a popular crowd ever. At school, I went to an all-boys school, and it was all a bit alpha male and rather tiresome. And one of my best friends there, in the first few years at least, was quite clearly gay and was absolutely hating all that alpha male stuff as well. And we had a zany friendship. It was a bit turbulent at times. We used to get quite catty with each other, but we formulated these what we call visions. We used to have these kind of comedy scenarios featuring people we knew, and just to sort of liven just to make it the whole day a bit more endurable. But I've never bonded with football. In that ways, I'm a freak of my own family, because I think pretty well everybody else in the family likes sport. But no, it's never done it for me.
So I'm sort of blissfully ignorant of anything beyond my crowd of people.
Yeah.
So, what's the best compliment you ever received, if you can say?
One of my ex-girlfriends said they adored me. I think they was in the heat of the moment, but it was still nice to hear. Anna was Davis at the time, better known as Brecon, who went on to play Lady Tara in at Emmerdale. I was at Studio Theatre with her before she joined Emmerdale, and we all went out for a drink at the County Hotel with her brother, and we introduced her. She was just like Lady Tyrant, very haughty, quite friendly but slightly haughty, and she said to her brother, "You've never met anyone quite like Nick before," which I've always kind of taken as a compliment. I suppose Heather, you read out a thingy from Heather saying that's a nice person that she knew. I'm not very good with compliments, so not all of them stick.
And also some can be for the wrong reason, or they're not really. They're people who wasn't. They're clearly interested in wanting to date you, and you're not showing any interest. So they'll say they'll say things, but they don't really mean when it all.
Somebody else I was corresponding with me, who I was in love with, said, "I can't get enough of you," which it's just little things like that, things you don't hear every day.
I think it's like, for instance, with our relatively new friend Muffley, the fact that he listened to the podcast and wanted to become part of our friendship group is the best compliment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was knocked out by that. I'm knocked out by the fact, I kind of waffle on these things because I enjoy talking, but you don't always expect sometimes you feel it's like sending a message into space. You don't know who's listening, who's actually taking it in, who's interested, and so to be confronted with this lovely chap who actually listened to all that we've got to say, and I think
it somehow means more to me than people. If it's a romantic thing, I love you because your hair, or your eyes, or some of these things will change. They're all very. Oh yeah. But when it's something I like you, I like to be friends with you because of something creative you've done. Yeah, that's far
exactly.
more.
But sometimes actions. They say actions speak louder than words. Sometimes actions can be louder than compliments as well. And the fact that also Toppy sort of being contemporary when we did the RPS, the tape scene episode, and he wanted to kind of stop and ask us in depth, and we got into loads of stuff which runs very deep with me and my love of recording.
But then I pretty much did to Toppy what Muffley did to me, in that I chased Toppy a bit to try and be because I wanted to be friends with him, because I knew that
and you do chase people inevitably, and there are people in my life that consider themselves friends of mine that I've been effectively chasing to get into my life for about 37 years, and I've had limited success. I'm not being a stalker or anything. I just feel that we have a history there, and it'd be nice to sit down with my wife and their other half, and just say, as I say on these things, you're a long time dead. Just do this.
I mean, that's the thing. You do have different types of friendships. You might just have a friendship with somebody. Yeah. You go for coffee with them. You catch up, and that's it. But the ones where there's some creative thing involved, they're that little bit. Yeah. And I'm also quite sort of. There are people I know who mean a lot to me, who aren't so creative and probably don't want to be, and I'm determined to kind of get them somehow into my creative world, so that they're preserved in
absolutely.
In there.
And I felt that very much like with the films. I would not only get people sort of I enjoy working with on theatre, but sort of people that are in my life that do you fancy doing this, and if they're up for it, kind of combining them with them, and it was exciting combining those different people, and that's very much carried on in the podcast world, where we got a nice sort of mixture of sort of backgrounds and so I mean there's
some people don't want to leave. Some people, which is kind of weird, because as we said before, we kind of want to leave something, even if our family aren't the people who are that interested. Want to do our best to try and leave something.
Well, and the older
other-
you get, the more passionately you think about this. I mean, there's with memory. So you've got all. You only need to take one or two. Not box sets. What am I? Hard drives, portable hard drives. And on my portable hard drive is pretty well my life, because all the photographs all the ones my mother's taken, all the sort of stuff that record, or pretty well everything that survives that I've written.
But on the other hand, there are people who don't even seem to like taking photographs. They want to. They're the opposite of us. They really don't. That they really don't want you to take a photo when you meet them, it's very difficult to. I mean, even Harry, who in a way, he has been preserved in so many of my things, but he was quite a minimal type person. He's quite a logical person with his maths. Even in his 40s, he's embraced his previous interest. He did have some interest in music, but now it's kind of. I remember him saying. And I meant to say to him when I recorded with him recently, you said this was going to be. I'm not. I'm not sort of saying, but he said he was going to do it for a year, but he's been doing it pretty much for must be 3 or 4 or 5 years now. So it's not something he's obviously continued to. So it's good to see him making something because.
But you've got to. I mean, I'm aware that I take great delight in rediscovering old recordings and photographs, and like the box of tapes that we were looking at today. I mean, I'm greatly looking forward to bringing those into the digital world. I'm a kind of digital midwife, equally, a friend I'd known since playgroup, so we're talking over 50 years, said last summer that I'm on Facebook with him. He said last summer, I think my mum's got a photograph of us all at playgroup, and I was so excited because I've got a few ones that my mum took, some slides that my mum took, and there was I with my perennial toffee-coloured T-shirt, and it was I'm just really chuffed. And also, talking of Harry, his dad discovered a couple of photographs that were taken in the summer of '78 when I was starting to get to know him, and I was literally hanging out with the girl next door, and there's me and Helen in long shot, and there's Harry with a little bike he used to ride, and also Harry, myself, and Mark House, who was our kind of a neighbourhood. He would have been a bully if he'd been effectual, but he was a bit young. He was younger than me, but not younger than Harry. He might
have been the one who was a bit of a bully to Harry.
Yes, he was. He was a bully to Harry, but he was one of those that a bit aggressive, and I think there was issues. But no, he was one of those characters that were part of that, and in those days, you were friends with somebody one day and not the next. Your children are like that. But there was the three of us, rubber-dub-dub in a tub, sort of, and in a the paddling pool. And I thought that there's three people, one of which is sometimes aggressive to me. There we are, all obviously having an on day, because there's so many. My mum, for some reason, started slowing up on taking photographs at that point in time, and 78 was a very, very important time in my life, because it was when I was leaving the beaches, going to Harlem, having a great time, and being starting to be more creative. And it was meant the world to me finding those old photographs, because they're just a good snapshot that doesn't otherwise exist.
I've got another question for you. We might move on to a couple more options, but we need to keep an eye on the time. But of all the things you bought in your life, what has been the worst purchase? You can tell you mine whilst you're thinking.
That's a very, very, very broad question.
Off the top of my head, the two things it was probably in the late it was in the other late 90s, early noughties. I bought a video camera and a new video player with some money I'd been left, and the video player was supposed to be more sensitive, and I can't remember what was the thing about it that made it better, but it was supposed to be better for editing stuff. And yet, when I started to use it, and I was editing things, it looked fine when you played it on that machine. Yeah. But then you went and played it on someone else's machine, and you had all these lines. It somehow was, it was a good machine if you were playing the things you were doing on that machine, but other machines didn't cope with it as seamlessly, and it looked awful. And also the video camera I bought at the same time was a really nice camera, and I think it was quite fancy and stuff. But I was filming in Paris with Harry again, and we'd done some scenes for Copernicus Files, and maybe I think Sutton Park was still just about around. We might have done some Sutton Park. We filled the tape with scenes, and I think it was one of those things where the original script, I think this might have been another season 2 episode, but it was a case of, oh, Harry and I are going to Paris, I better write a scene set in Paris because we're, because it's like the opposite of how real TV works. We're like, we want to go and film in so and so. No, we were like, oh, we're going here, right? So we have to have that. Yeah. And the tape just jammed, and I couldn't get it to eject. Nothing would work. And in the end, I unscrewed the whole camera and removed the tape. It was a case of, do I lose the tape with all the Paris footage, or do I basically lose the camera because I don't think I'm going to put it back again? And even though I never edited what I took, I decided that the tape was more... I was worried that if I took it to a camera shop, they wouldn't care about the tape. They would just kind of damage it. And I don't think I regret... I don't feel like I had any other decision that I could guarantee that I got the tape out. And I just bought another camera, which shows I probably had more money than sense, but at the time. But I guess because it's just a shame that the money had come from, unfortunately, the passing of a good family friend. So I felt like it was disrespectful to a lot of the money I was left went towards the deposit for my flat, but I kept some aside. I wanted to buy things that were important to me. So a much better video player, which turned out not to be, and a much better video camera than, or at least I thought it was. And they both let me down, and I felt that was sad, considering that the money came from somebody who was important, and I kind of wanted it to be like a tribute to them that I was using these things, and then the technology let me down, and so that would probably be my answer.
This question has a lot of potential, because the more you think about it, the more almost identical to your situation. In 2004 I was faced with editing my film Gift from Eternity, which had been shot mostly the year before, and my video recorder that I had been editing with, which dates back to 96, not very far away, the heads were starting to go. I deliberately had bought that one with lots of heads so I could do some proper editing, and as usual things never come back from the repair shop as quite as they had, so I got rid of this, and like yourself I bought myself a video rather than man up to digital editing, which I experimented with when we did the previous film Smile Again, but it was the sound would, because I didn't have enough memory is the key. I wish someone had said that to me back then, but portable hard drives revolutionised sort of that, but you inevitably, because of the lack of memory, you had sound going and vision going in two different directions. But I bought this video in a ditch attempt to try and in 2004 to try and edit this film, and because it had about 4 or 5 heads, so I thought, oh, this would be all right. But like yourself, when it was played back on a certain TV, it would go in between shots, and I thought, oh, this is terrible. So obviously, finally, 4 years later, I finally mastered digital editing and all well and good, but it was a transitional period, but it really was a waste of money, and it was sold to me by some stupid loink that they never did exactly because videos were starting to be phased out, but I could probably pinpoint a few other not very good things, but I bought one embarrassing thing is during sort of a time when we weren't getting on all that well. Ali and I bought a pair of earrings, and she'd never had her ears pierced in her life. So I kind of the things I had noticed or didn't realise, and was rather. Sort of, it was a bit of it was a man misfire, should we say? But I mean, I think pretty well. Technically, I think if we're being really pedantic, I think that one of the worst purchases I did was from radio rentals. Because it wasn't purchased; it was kind of what I should have done when I first had the bug to film, which was '89 for my cousin's wedding. I should have actually gone and bought one. I suppose this whole culture which one grows up with renting is what kind of did for it. Sort of it lingers with you even though you see the flaw of it. You can't get out of it. But I wish I hadn't spent all that money on radio rentals. I wish I'd actually gone out because you've always got a knackered machine that was substandard.
So our last section before we say goodbye is would you rather questions. So would you rather be able to change your past or be able to change your future?
I can change my past actually. There's a few things I'd tweak. And a few things I wouldn't mess up, mainly because I think I could have been a better person if I'd made those choices. I certainly could have fulfilled my potential a bit more. So if we're going to tamper with anything, I think we're tampering with the past. Future, difficult to know. It might, who knows? Things might sort of turn out roses and kind of be even better. But no, I think I'd be more interested in tampering with the past.
Yeah. I think it would be small things, or it might be trying to sort of stop friendships that kind of, I don't know, find sort of thing is that it's not usually me who ends a friendship, so, and it's not necessarily that a friendship ended in a bad, it kind of faded out, and I think I'd have paid more attention to when people like my friend Lee was kind of, because that suddenly had happened, he suddenly realised that I couldn't contact him anymore around the time when I first started I came to dating relatively late, but and so I was kind of distracted by things happening in my personal life, and then before I realised, just a minute, Lee had just moved house, and suddenly I couldn't get hold of him, and so it was sort of, my eye was off the ball on that friendship. But then maybe I couldn't have done anything about it anyway. Maybe I know he'd always sort of wanted to, he was kind of quite, well, I need to do this, I must actually get a life, and I must I think he had plans for himself.
There are two things immediately spring to mind, but this is a game I'm playing with myself all the time. This is a game I play all the time, not playing with myself all the time. I've often spoke of how I get a video camera a lot earlier, but I think also if we're going back to school leaving age, I would have smartened myself the hell up and concentrated more. Should have concentrated more on what my peers were looking like and general idea about that, rather than what my mother or family would have sort of seen me, and kind of, I've never really bothered keeping up with trends of clothes or whatever, and we had hand-me-downs galore when I was a kid, But I should have actually just smartened myself up a bit. Because I knew that one or two people had said that, and I kind of resented it. I wouldn't have done facial hair until the 90s. I don't regret doing facial hair in the 90s, but my attempts at facial hair in the 80s were catastrophic. So I don't think I did myself many favours, but I would have made a little bit more effort now here in the right places rather than the wrong places to get relation. I also would have left Fall Boys earlier, and probably if I hadn't have cracked writing by then, knowing my energy level, I would have gone into admin a lot earlier than I did and gone back to college.
This is an interesting one. Would you rather get rid of 90% of your possessions or 10% of your friends?
Ooh.
I think it depends on...
It depends what I'm giving away.
Well, I think it depends on which percent of your friends.
Oh, yeah. And why am I getting rid of 90% of my possessions?
Because of some Twilight Zone weirdness.
No. I think probably... I think... If I could keep my portable hard drives, all the personal stuff, everything else is expendable, to be honest.
I think
DVDs are nice to have, but
it depends whether it's the 10% of your phone book of who you never hear from anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Then I would want to keep the possessions.
Yeah, I mean, I could, if we're talking purely Facebook, for example, I could probably easily jettison 10% of them. So it's the people I've known. It's nice to keep in touch with. Turning it on its head, I think if it was 10% of the,
if it was basically all of the friends who, because the friends who are on the podcast are the friends who I'm most in contact with at this very moment. If most of them were in the 10%, then no.
Exactly.
But
I mean, there's still people on my Facebook list like work in progress, and I'd invite them to things, and there's, you just kind of wish there was one event or one thing where you could actually get them to spend time with you, and where you could prove yourself to them. But no, it's a funny one. It depends really. Well, I could.
It's random. If it was a random 10%, that wouldn't even be worth. That wouldn't be worth. But I wouldn't be very happy getting rid of my 90%. Is a lot, and
but
I'm not sure.
I don't think that would
be lucky enough to get away with the hard drive thing. I think you might be losing things that were really valuable to you.
Well, if it was random, then forget it. But if it was a calculated one, then the hard drives would be in the 10%. They are your memories and things like that. It's important. But pretty. If as long as that was included in perhaps one or two books. I think I'll go for that. But like you say, is it 10%? Friends is a very wide. In these days of social media, friends is a very broad brush. Interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, this one is probably a quicker one. Would you rather spend 8 hours listening to someone scratch a chalkboard with their nails, or have a mosquito buzzing around your head as you try to sleep each night for a month? I would rather have the chalkboard, because 8 hours is only 8 hours, but nothing worse than something buzzing around when you can't see it, you're trying to... For
also
a month,
might sting you. I go for the chalkboard, I think.
Would you rather only be able to whisper or only able to shout?
I'd rather only be able to whisper.
You'd annoy yourself, wouldn't you, if you could only shout?
Yeah, and also you kind of good night.
This is an easy one. I mean, imagine. I know you don't have Netflix, but imagine there's something you have. Would you rather give up social media or Netflix? I've already given up Netflix.
Easily.
I've already given up Netflix.
It's gone.
And I think...
I can live without both, to be honest, in the greater scheme of things.
I think this is where it changes. I've always been pretty lucky with social media. I seem to avoid most of the nastiness that other people encounter. Maybe just because I keep in my little podcast world and talking to people.
I go through phases of wanting to hide under a bush. Yeah, I go for the sort of nobody loves me kind of thing, and everybody needs a bit of a break from it now and then. But yeah, on the whole.
But then people often say, "Oh, if you're going through a bad patch, you can always talk to me." But sometimes it's not as easy as that.
It isn't easy as that.
And sometimes you're waiting for people to notice that you, and they don't. But you're not necessarily capable of.
There's a lot, and also, it's a where do I start kind of thing. There are some problems it's difficult to expound on without getting, and also if the people have pissed you off, you might actually still care about them, and it's painful to go slagging them off.
A couple more. Would you rather live in a world where robots or aliens ruled the world?
The difference being robots and aliens.
I think depends on whether they're nice. If they're nice,
well, exactly. That's a rather silly question. I mean,
because they could be horrible robots, or they could be quite nice robots.
Well, we're living in a. I mean, if you go into the supermarket, we're living in a world where robots rule anyway. I think I'll go for robots because it won't make much difference. It depends how much power they've got. I mean,
would you rather never have to do laundry or never have to do the dishes again?
Never have to do laundry. I don't mind either, to be honest. I don't have to do laundry. I don't have to do the dishes. I kick out laundry because there's always a lot more work to do.
Well, also when you have to use the laundrette, so it's
I mean, the thing is, the last two, because of Saturday and you were coming up, and Wednesday I was coming up to you. I kind of completely jettisoned the ironing because I just haven't got time. I laundry would go, I think, even though I like the smell of laundrettes and fresh laundry.
So the last one, would you rather always drink bad coffee or always eat stale bread?
Well, I'm used to bad coffee because of church. So I go for bad coffee. I think I could
probably cope with bad coffee.
Stale bread is like to make you ill.
I don't think you'd want to even bother.
How would you define bad coffee? I mean, the worst coffee that I can think of was Mellow Birds, but even then I'm quite nostalgic about it and that was what we had at Martin, the newsagent, when I first started work.
Some people with high standards might say that granulated coffee is bad coffee, but actually granulated coffee is it's not as bad as it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite hard to find really bad coffee these days. I mean, someone burns it.
Even Mellow Birds is quite nostalgic because it's for me. But the thing is, if it depends how snobby you want to be about coffee. I don't like pure coffee. I don't like sort of the kind of. I don't like that stuff. It tastes horrible. So I go for bad coffee every time.
You've got to eat bread. You want to eat. It needs to be good.
You make yourself ill.
You probably improve bad coffee with milk or sugar or something, or find a way around it.
Exactly, easier. But it's difficult.
You can't make
stale bread make good. Yeah.
Well, listeners, that's what we've got time for. I think this has been quite successful with quite a lot of different things we don't have to sort of sit on the one type of thing. So we'll probably do this again. We'll say goodbye, but we will come back and just do a greatest hits, just a quick roundup of some of these, and just do a few more bits at the end of the episode. But anyway, thank you, Nick, for joining us.
Pleasure.
And just as I always think with these words, have we done it? Have we kind of reached as much as you can? But obviously, there's so many words. But it's always nice to find a little twist if you in these types of things, and the internet has been very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back soon. You take care, and bye for now. It's going to be the main meal. We won't do the breakfast because we have disagreements about. Well, not you and I, but we have disagreements with it. Oh no, I've got to do. I'm going to do about 5. I'd like you to pick. I can offer you tonight. I can offer you egg fried rice.
Oh.
I can offer you broccoli and bacon salad.
Mm-hmm.
I can offer you mushroom risotto, a cucumber sushi roll, or lemon garlic lamb.
Egg fried rice, no competition. I love egg fried rice.
Some of these, I'd almost say. Well, it depends how many. How many. Some of these I could have as a starter, like broccoli and bacon salad. I do like broccoli, but I like egg fried rice. But I want something. I want something that wouldn't be. That would be a side dish to something else as well. To me, and I like a mushroom risotto. We sometimes have that at home.
So I have that meal in minutes, which has got broccoli in it and rice, and a nice combination.
Yeah. Cucumber sushi roll. I like sushi, but
don't like cucumbers.
That's a bit of a boring one.
Yeah.
But the lemon garlic lamb looks good. I don't know what we're serving it with, but let's see what else we can. So. Today I'm offering you vegan quesadilla.
What's that? Quesadilla?
It looks like a flatbread, I suppose.
Oh, right.
A filled flatbread.
Yeah.
Looks like it might have vegan cheese and tomato and stuff. Yeah. A bacon barbecue cheeseburger, beef, bean and corn chili, halloumi pomegranate salad, so that's a cheese, but it's a grilled cheese, or ham, cheese and egg casserole. Ham, cheese and egg casserole.
Egg? That's an odd casserole, but I think that's probably the best bet.
I'd be curious to see how it compared to like the casserole that my mum served up for lunch today.
Yeah.
Compared,
Like ham, cheese, I get on well with all those.
I think halloumi pomegranate salad I'd probably want as a starter.
Pomegranate's a funny old fruit. I have memories of my friend at school eating it with a safety pin.
I like chili con carne, although I'm not sure that portion looks big enough to keep me full. I want a second. The bacon barbecue cheeseburger, definitely.
Burgers, I like the meat part of burgers, but not the bun part of burgers.
Sometimes the bun can let things down.
Yeah.
The vegan quesadilla, don't know how to pronounce that. Quesadilla. There's more something I wouldn't mind as a snack or a lunch, but not as
flatbread sounds a bit.
I'm only taking it from the visual, but let's do one more because I can hear the theme music. Poised. So we got. Would you like salmon salad? Would you like chicken fajita?
Fajita?
Roast sea bass, sweet and sour pork, or meatball ravioli?
Meatball ravioli just sounds quite nice, but I think I'll go for the other one, sweet and sour. That's liking that.
And say no to any of these. Salmon salad. Perhaps I'd have that as a
all these fancy
starter.
names though. I got
the fajita is that I can never remember if fajitas are crispy or whether they're just wraps basically. I certainly wouldn't say no to that. We have that sort of thing at home. Sea bass looks interesting, but I want some new potatoes or something.
I just think of Austin Powers when I think of sea bass. The mutated sea bass, right? A big ill temper.
Sweet and sour pork I quite like, but I tend to, with Chinese, and one of the reasons I don't tend to, when you and I have Chinese, I don't tend to, I tend to go for an Indian rather than a Chinese, is that I'm so used to, when we have Chinese for my parents, they get like one of those meals where you get about 6 different things.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I like sweet and sour pork, but I don't know if I want just sweet and sour. I want sweet and sour pork with a bit of beef, this and a bit of that, and
exactly.
a buffet.
There's a Chinese by Lane and Keith that used to do the buffet, don't anymore, and that used to be quite good. But then you could see in advance immediately under your nose what you would be having. Whereas sometimes when you go for the buffet, it might end up being a bit naff.
Yeah, I mean the meatball ravioli, I love that sort of thing, but unless there was a lot of it, I'd probably rather have that as a starter bit.
That would be my go. That would be my standby. I think.
Yeah, I think I would possibly
sweet and sour.
Unless it was a very big portion, I'd probably prefer to have it as a starter. Okay, well, I can hear the theme music. We'll be back after this for one last go.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
It's been good, but yeah, definitely time to come home now.
Wow. Really? No kidding.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Yeah, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear. What's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Let's go.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnivazPods.net.
I thought we'd do random paragraph generator. Actually, no. Or was it? No, was it random sentence generator is what I want. Because that kind of... The paragraph tended to be almost like... Well, that's a short story. That's a very short
story, yeah. My brain at this time of the afternoon is not at its best.
Right. Let's see. If any of these connect or inspire you, I'll read them all. First, we've got 5 of them. Someone I know recently combined maple syrup and buttered popcorn, thinking it would taste like caramel popcorn. It didn't, and they don't recommend anyone else do it either. If you don't like toenails, you probably shouldn't look at your feet. The urgent care centre was flooded with patients after the news of a new deadly virus was made public. Too soon. The father handed each child a road map at the beginning of the 2-day road trip and explained it was so they could find their way home. She wanted to be rescued, but only if it was Tuesday and raining.
I think our last one, the only kind of... don't like toenails to look at feet. That reminds me a bit of my sister, because I like to stretch my legs out, because they've got long legs, and I have to watch it whenever at my sister's, because she doesn't like bare feet around, or feet.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do much with, well, I'm sure I could, but the maple syrup one, that's a little story or something.
Not a very funny one, and not a very interesting one.
I'm not sure that inspires me. I'm not sure the toenails one really
inspire me.
I don't think I want to go down the deadly virus one at the moment.
Deadly virus, no, I know.
But I must say that the father handing their child a road map at the beginning of a 2-day road trip and sort of go, well, you find your way home, that can certainly lead to some sort of story. I'm not sure it's the sort of story that I would usually like.
Well, the thing is, you could...
the whole world is at your...
you could... It's the sort of thing I used to dream about as a kid, sort of like, this big wide world, and I've got to find my way home.
Well, Harry always...
I think there's a potential for a sort of Lord of the Flies kind of thing there, where you don't find your way home and you have to eat people. And...
We never really did it. We never did it. I might have possibly done something like this more with you than I did with Harry, but Harry always said, he'd like to spend the night out go out and just stay wandering around London until dawn, just sort of seeing what places were open.
I did that with Keith.
But we never. There never was a right time, and I don't think we'll do it.
No, I don't think we'll do it now. But it was certainly. I think the pair of us would have been up for it. When we were younger days, but I did do that with Keith Musselwhite, and it was fascinating. I mean, we were both knackered, and the journey back, I have never. It was a revelation seeing London that quiet. Absolutely, I mean, it was like Waterloo Station. The only people around in Waterloo Station at 4 a.m. were a few drunks, and that was it. It was fascinating watching the world open up.
Certainly done with Harry. going to Popstars nightclub in London and then leaving Popstars, getting from King's Cross to Victoria, getting on the 24-hour coach back to Oxford, going from the coach station to Oxford, and trying to, in the summer, to get back to Harry's and get the curtains closed and asleep before the sun came up. We were...
you do get bored. I mean, I think we were playing sort of party games. Like I went to so-and-so and got bored of da-da-da-da-da, just to pass the time. I mean, if it was a good friend like yourself or Keith, then with the one that Keith, it worked. I couldn't do it all the time, but it was a worthwhile experiment.
I quite like that. I quite like that last one. I mean, it was certainly an interesting sentence if you were going to do it.
I can't remember it. It's trying to retain all these sentences.
She wanted to be rescued, but only if it was Tuesday and raining.
That's the only one of those, I would say. Apart from the kids, that's the only one I think. You've got a kind of Carmen thing happening. I think you're probably somebody like some sort of woman that is sort of into mad fetishes.
I think you could, or you could almost. That could be in that story about the father and the roadmap. You could get chapters written by different kids, or sort of focusing on different kids. So one of the kids might be quite happy to be lost and only wants to be rescued if it was Tuesday and raining. But
she's obviously up to something. Rose gone on Tuesday. What are you doing the rest of the time? But no, those last two are by far the only ones you can actually make anything of.
Anyway, I think we've been extremely random and have done pretty well, so we'll leave it there and we'll have another go. We'll have another go another time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What the hell just happened on this show? I mean, seriously, reverse it, because I lost it. What's going on? What happened?
Whoa, I love that one. Great show, Paul. Yep, that was a good shoot. Man, was that worth it or not? Oh my goodness, that was a darling little shoe. 636. I'm telling you. 636. 636. This is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard.